Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Reverend Beth Monholland. My pronouns are she, hers, and I have the deep joy of serving as the lead minister to this congregation alongside our associate minister, Reverend Sally. We are a people of many ages and histories, genders, bodies, identities, and beliefs. But we are united in a commitment to our shared mission, which is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. I bid you welcome this morning, whether it is your 1,000th time in these pews or your first. But if you are a visitor today, I would invite you to complete a visitor's card so that we may stay connected with you. And because I mentioned earlier that we are people of all ages, we do indeed welcome all the little noises and wiggles and interruptions that children bring into a service. And no matter your age, we invite you, if you need to keep your hands busy, to grab a coloring packet from the entryway. And if you need a little more space just to stretch your legs, get those wiggles out, or attend to your body's needs, you are welcome at any point in the service to go over to our fellowship hall, which is just across the entryway, and the audio of the service is being piped into there. Everyone is invited after the service into Fellowship Hall for more community and kinship, and because it's a UU church, coffee and treats. And we hope that you will indeed join us in that time of fellowship. And speaking of fellowship, I want to invite you now to just take a moment to turn in your seat, rise if you want to, and greet your neighbors, say a friendly hello, wave. And if someone is wearing a yellow or a red lanyard, that just means they might want you to keep your distance. So do indeed wave instead of leaning in for a hug. I'm going to ring our chime to get us started, and I'll give you a minute or so. I know how you all like to chat, to greet each other this morning. And if you're joining us online, I invite you to drop a greeting into the chat as well. Thank you, everyone, for those warm greetings. Way to build community. Good work. We will now light our chalice, as Unitarian Universalist churches across the nation do, as one symbol of our shared faith tradition, a symbol of the light of the universe, that divine spark that is in each of us. Brittany Shipley and Haley Gibbs will do our chalice lighting today, with Brittany sharing words from UU minister Reverend Kim Mason. Once they have finished, everyone will then be invited to rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn. And I'll invite them forward.
Good morning. Thank you. Hey. Okay, so this is my first time doing this, so thanks. All right. Once upon a time, chemists believed they could transform lead into gold or death into life. We laugh, but are we not also in the business of alchemy? Turning loneliness into connection, pain into comfort, anger into solidarity, faith into action? The subtle magic of church combines love with justice, creates hope out of fear, transforms individuals into community. Here we engage in a holy alchemy, finding beauty in the ordinary and life in the present. Come, let us be transformed together. Thank you.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 348, Guide My Feet. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain.
The Soul Matters, our small group ministry theme for the month of March, is transformation. And so I have a little activity to think about what transformation is, how it might be messy. So I need some people to just come up. You're just going to hold this little container and look in it. And it's tell everybody what you find. If there's any kids who want to, or a kid at heart, you don't have to though, because I'm happy to do it from here. Here come some young people. Here they come. Do, do, do. Come on. And come up here by me so I can pass it to you. All right. This is Lynn. And this is Natalie. What's your name? Emmy? And Camden. All right. So, what do you think is in this? Greek yogurt. A good guess for those who can see that it is a Greek yogurt container. Camden, do you want... Go ahead, Camden. Maybe we're recycling and reusing? I think Camden is right. It might not be yogurt. Camden, would you like to see what's in here and then tell everybody? What is it? Emmy, do you want to look and see what's maybe in there?
It's dirt.
Dirt. All right, Lynn?
Lovely dark Illinois dirt.
Dark Illinois dirt. It is not just dirt. Guess what it really is besides dirt? Compost! Yay, from the galley. Thank you to Kiri for bringing us compost today, by the way. This is indeed compost. Does anybody know up here or in the peanut galley what the compost is for? After Halloween, you put your pumpkins in the compost pile. Yeah, that is true. And do you know why we do that, Camden? Anybody up here know why we want to do that and why we make compost?
We give the bugs a home.
We give the bugs a home. We're recycling our,
Stuff, and we can use it to grow some.
and we use it to grow other things. Oh my God, it's like you all read my notes. Or are smart and know what compost is. So this is dark Illinois. Can you take that? And you all look at it. Don't touch it though. I mean, unless you want to get your hands really dirty. You can shake it up and look at it and then pass it. Or have a worm crawl up your arm. This is so true. So everybody, it sounds like you all are familiar with the concept of compost. I'm shocked at a UU congregation. Not. So this isn't just beautiful, dark Illinois soil. It is indeed some compost that Kiri brought in. Kiri, if you do not know, is an amazing gardener. She's going to do a harvest service for us, I think, again this late summer. You don't want to miss that. But in the compost, we do indeed throw our old Halloween pumpkins, bits of our veggies, maybe bits of other things that don't need to end up in a landfill, that can be indeed turned into dark Illinois dirt in order to grow new things. And that is the amazing thing about compost, is that Emmy also said you might have a worm crawl up your arm, because in really good rich compost there are indeed worms. And Camden, do you know what the worms and other bugs do? They eat all that stuff you put in there, and then you know what they do? They poop it out. Emmy is correct. They poop it out, and all of that becomes the amazingly wonderful soil that becomes the fertile ground for new things to grow.
You also put like egg.
You can put eggshells in there, leaves, yep. You want to hand it back?
Orange things.
Orange peel, there's so much. If someone wants to look at Kiri's compost later, we'll have it available. Thank you all. I'll let you go back to your seats. And I want everybody to think about how the compost is messy, it's mucky, sometimes it gets stinky, and that, everybody, is like Unitarian Universalists. We have a living tradition as Unitarian Universalists, and what that really means is, theologically, we went from worm poop to theology because they are connected. Theologically, we believe that our tradition is one that is unfolding, that revelation of the divine is never fixed or done, and therefore we ourselves as people always have the ability, even if it's mucky and messy and covered in worm poop, to transform and to change. And that is sometimes hard work, but it's good work, and it's work we can do. Hold on to that. And now I'm going to let all of the young people head to RE. But before you head out, I want to give you a few special instructions today. The nursery, for those who didn't know, is open for anybody 5 and younger today. But this week in RE, we have one big exercise for everybody to do. So rather than going to separate classrooms, all of our young people and our RE volunteers are going to go down to the children's chapel. And you are going to get to do a song circle today. Do you know what a song circle is? No. People are like, I don't know, do I get penalized if I get the answer wrong? No. But the song circle is an opportunity not just to do a sing-along, that's a separate thing. A song circle is a spiritual practice, kind of like a drum circle, where we enter into communal space together, we pay attention to our breath and our body, and use song as a way of entering more deeply into our bodies and into shared space together. Beth Simpson, where are you, Beth? Yay! Beth Simpson is an amazing song circle leader. So she is the talented and amazingly creative person who will lead you today. I think Joe Omo Asagie is going to have his drums. So all the young people, RE volunteers, and I'm not gonna lie, if there's any grown-ups who are like, I do not want to hear a sermon today, then you head down, and I mean this sincerely, you head downstairs as well, enter into your body, and enter into a fabulous multi-gen space of co-creating together. So head on out. You are free to go. I know the little ones are like, I'm done, lady. Yep, you are. Go on, my dear ones. Thank you, Juan. And they're off. Thank you all. And really, go play if you need to, folks. But speaking of being in our bodies and having embodied rituals, now is the time for that. Each week that we gather, we know that we are carrying our whole lives with us, our joys and our sorrows, our aches and our pains, the things that comfort us, the things that tug us down. And as an act of spiritual generosity, we make space for that together, trusting that when we trust each other to share those joys and sorrows, our joys are uplifted and our sorrows are lightened. Because the last 4 weeks, we've been focused on our generosity campaign. We have foregone our shared joys and sorrows, the act of speaking those aloud, but we will do that today. And so if you have a joy or sorrow you'd like to submit, there are joy and sorrow cards in your pew rack. You can also, especially if you're joining us online, submit those at joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. We'll read those later in the service, but this is our time to be in our bodies here in this space together. We will sing our blessing song, May the Longtime Sun, and as we do so, if you feel moved, I invite you to come to the chalice table or the center table in the back aisle there, where I've put out a bowl of water and stones to represent our sorrows and silk petals to represent our joys. And as we sing, if you would like to, in your body and in your heart, participate in that ritual, I invite you to do so. And if you feel that you just need to sit quietly and feel your feelings and make space for others, know that that invitation is open to you as well. Let's take a deep breath. And another. And one more breath all the way down from your head to your toes. And as we exhale, we will begin to sing, May the Longtime Sun.
May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure
thank you for that time of sharing. May we trust that whether we speak them aloud or not, our joys and our sorrows are handled with tender care here in this community. And speaking of this community, there are many, many ways for you to be engaged in the life of the church here. Our RE program for both our children and our adults offers lots of ways to engage throughout the week and the month. Our social action councils are engaged in work here within the community and beyond these walls. And I trust that whatever ways that you are making meaning in your life, that this church is an active part of that. Read your e-news. That's our weekly newsletter for dates and events. And for a few of those that I want to highlight that are coming up this week, in case you missed them, plan to attend next Sunday service for sure. This Sunday we're a little light on the ground in the room, although I love seeing so many of you on this daylight savings time. As an early morning person who got up at 5 a.m. to go for a walk and it was still dark, I was like, oh, curses to you, daylight savings. For the rest of you who are like, yay, it'll be light at 9 p.m., good for you. But next Sunday, you will not want to miss it. Our worship committee is actually leading a fabulous service, exploring what we believe. There will be many different voices from this congregation sharing some of their beliefs with us. There will be fabulous music, and you will absolutely want to be here. And then after the service, in the theme of composting and transformation, we will actually have a multi-generational, all ages seed planting event, and everybody will get to take home some seedlings and see what they grow into. So be sure you're here next week for that. And also, there is still time for our members. If you haven't submitted your pledge yet, you can still get those in. Our finance committee is hard at work creating the budget for the next church year, and accurate accounting of pledges really helps them do their work, so be sure to do that. And for everyone who has pledged, thank you. And for everyone who has worked on that pledge campaign and continues to do so, blessings on you. It's fun work, everybody, and so you will want to be part of that next year is all I'm saying. That's my recruitment pitch for stewardship and generosity. But generosity is one of our UU values. It is a core principle of how we engage with both community building and justice work here at UUCUC. And each Sunday, in recognition of our real interdependence and reliance on each other, we pass our plate and collect an offering, and we share 50% of that with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. For our March Sundays, we are sharing our plate with Midwest Access Coalition, which is a nonprofit abortion fund that helps people access safe abortions here in Illinois. We have a video from them to hear more about their work. We'll play that.
Hi, my name is Madison. I'm the Deputy Director of Midwest Access Coalition, or MAC, and I want to take a moment to speak to you about the work MAC does and the difference that donations make. MAC supports abortion seekers traveling to, from, or within the Midwest to access abortion, and so we support their travel, lodging, and provide funding for those things, money to offset the cost of food, childcare, really anything they need for their trip. And our coordinators are in touch with them from the beginning to end of their trip because things happen in travel, you have to pivot, and so we're there to support them every step of the way. And sometimes our coordinators are the only people that some of our clients feel like they can talk to about their situation, which is really important. Our definition of the Midwest has grown over the years and unfortunately continues to grow in this post-Roe world. We've supported folks from every state in the Midwest and also 16 states outside of the Midwest. We support folks of any age, immigrant status. We will work with people to get around the many barriers that they face to access abortion. We worked with 86 providers across the country last year. We supported 1,800 people in accessing abortion last year. We just passed our 6,000th client. And the need is always growing. We are constantly working to increase our capacity to meet the need, and it is a mountain we continue to climb. Our donations go, of course, directly to paying for the costs that I mentioned earlier for abortion seekers: hotels, buses, trains, planes, gas money, all of that kind of stuff. It also goes to support the folks who are supporting the abortion seekers. Burnout is rampant in nonprofit work, and this work specifically, so we are very intentional about the wellness of our staff. And so it goes to support them as well, and also the security and privacy of the information of our clients, our staff, our board, our volunteers, because there are so many laws popping up that are targeting not only abortion seekers, but the people supporting them. And so keeping everyone's information safe is extremely important as well. We thank you for thinking of us. We thank you for your generous support and sending lots of love to you.
Illinois has become a bit of a refuge state for all kinds of people who are seeking to maintain their bodily autonomy and safety. And that includes, of course, those seeking access to critical medical care like abortion. And so we are honored to be able, as a congregation, to support the work of Midwest Access Coalition throughout the month of March. You can give today by text or through our online portal on our website. And if you're here in the sanctuary, the basket will soon be passed. We should get real baskets, but the plate will soon be passed. You can give by cash or checks made out to UUC. And again, half of everything we collect today will go to sustaining our mission, and half will go directly to Midwest Access Coalition. This is also the time, if you have a joy and sorrow you want to share, please feel free to send those cards up to me. And we invite you to give whatever is generous for you. Know that anything you contribute will be gratefully received. Our offering will now be taken, and we'll have, MR's already there. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Find the stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
May we find stillness and peace here by sharing our authentic selves, by sharing our joys and sorrows with each other. I have 2 weeks worth to share. As I promised last week, I would lift up those that people brought to us. I'll start first with those from last week. A joy from Shanda, who shared that she has been a member of UUCUC for over a month now and is grateful to have found a community in which to feel safe, embraced, and appreciated. This has been a missing piece of my life, she says. And from Haley, continuing to feel sorrow for the people of Palestine, proud of the CU community for showing up in support of a ceasefire. A joy from Brittany. I'm grateful for the love I have received from this community and the connections I will continue to make. Thank you for being so open and welcoming. And from Brandy, a joy. Yesterday, although this was 7 days ago, so a week ago, Brandy finished their 13th graduate class for their PhD program and only have 4 more classes, an internship, exams, and then a dissertation to go. Progress, my beloveds, progress. And then a sorrow from Kristen, who is grieving for the soul of Frank Gerlitz. May he dance eternally with Jerry Garcia and the great jam band in the sky. Oh, that is a eulogy for us all. A joy from Elizabeth, passed a final exam for my midwife program and caught 3 babies this past week. Yeah! Babies just keep being born. It's so great. From Barbara, happy birthday, Margaret. My sister turns 84 last week. She lives in Tacoma, Washington, in her home for and is in a family home for severe dementia. But 84, happy birthday, Margaret. From Priscilla, feeling joy for my husband, Jerry, who retired last Thursday. This today is the 2nd Sunday of the rest of his life. Jerry, congratulations. From Anne, asking for prayers and hopes for healing for my dear friend Mary Margaret, who is facing a serious medical condition. From Tim and Jerry, a sorrow at the passing of Bruce Hansen, a local treasure. Bruce formed the Prairie Rivers Network, which prevented a dam from flooding Allerton Park, and he led the effort to restore the clock tower on the courthouse, and many more ways he touched this community. Blessings on Bruce. And this is from Anonymous. I am grateful for 6 months of sobriety. I've never felt better, and I appreciate this community's love and support. A few more sorrows that came in on email. Some of you know last month our new member Bob Foote died suddenly, and we are holding his wife Cheryl and his sister Karen in our hearts as they prepare to live in the reality of life without him. We will have a memorial service for Bob on April 20th. Bob Ilias and Walt McMahon, who are longtime members here, are both also ill and in the hospital. The caring team, their families, and the ministers have been in touch with them, and we will continue to hold them in our hearts as they struggle with the health issues they're facing. And then, my dear ones, if you did not know, tomorrow. Tomorrow marks the 4-year anniversary of the beginning of the nationwide lockdowns due to COVID-19. And I felt like I could not leave it unmarked this morning. The last 4 years have been painful in so many ways. Millions of people died, millions more. We're faced with the reality of life without their loved ones, and millions more were faced with the reality of how precarious our social systems here in America and across the world really are. I remember in the summer of 2020 hearing poet, activist, and writer Sonia Renee Taylor say, "We will not go back to normal," because normal was not working for too many of us. But here we are 4 years later, and our normal continues to be insecurity, trauma, and death. But that is not the only story, because our normal also continues to be resilience and community and hope. And hope, some of you have heard me say this, hope is not a strategy, dear ones, but hope is a motivation to make a strategy to answer the despair that is all around us. And on this anniversary of those lockdowns, this anniversary of how we had to come to grips with, or begin to, how our world is so unsafe for too many of us, may we here in this community, in this church, hold space for all of those griefs, and also hold space for the joys that continue to hold us. I want to invite us into silence as we hold all of that, and I'm going to ring the singing bowl for you to begin that silence. And I'll ring it again when the tone of it has seeped its way into our bodies and we can't hear it anymore, but only feel it in our heartbeats. I'll call us back together. But I invite you to breathe, to be comfortable in your seats, and whatever memories are stirred for you for these past 4 years, hold them with tenderness and know that you are never holding them alone. May this community be a place where things fall off the pulpit sometimes, and we let it be okay. I am going to pick that up. All of today's, my brain stops, all the cloth material we have on the altar today, and this as well, were actually given to me by given to us by new member Jill Moore. There's things that she wove. She's a weaver like Kiri, and it's collected over the years. And as she's paring down her house, she came to me and said, "I noticed you like to put out cloths on the altar, would you like some more? To which I said, of course I do. So thank you, Jill, for the beautiful pieces. I want to invite you into a thought experiment that I did with the board, actually. The board and I, a few months ago, during one of our study sessions, we're trying to imagine what can our future be, and that feels way big and a little hard sometimes. So this is just a short exercise. You can do it right where you are. You don't need anything special, just your heart and your mind. But I want you for a moment to imagine a scale of 1 to 10. And you are you. You don't have to imagine that too hard. But I want you to think about your life right now in this moment. And think about how much change do you think is needed in this moment for you? With 1 being no change at all, things are great. I hope they last like this forever. And 10 being, I want everything completely burned down and radicalized. My whole life needs to change. 1 to 10, where are you? How much change and transformation do you need in your life? There's no right or wrong. Just think about where you would put yourself in this moment on that scale. You can think about your personal life, your work life, your church life. They're all one big messy life, everybody. They're not separate. But whatever ways you were thinking about that, what change do you need? Do you all have a number on that scale? So now imagine another scale. And this scale is, how much hope do you have that change is possible? 1 being, no hope at all, nothing's going to change. And 10 being, I have so much hope. We are going to make that change that I need. So this isn't about what you need. How much hope do you have that change is possible? Think about those 2 numbers now. You have them both. The change you want and need, the change you think is possible. How many of you, those numbers are nearly completely in alignment with each other, within 1, like you had a 5, I need everything to change, and 5, I'm hopeful it can. Is there anybody who's really close? A couple of you. How many have I don't need any change, but I do believe change is possible for others who need it? Do you have any of that? Like you've got a big gap around, don't need change, have some hope. And then maybe you've got some, hey, I need everything to change. I'm not sure where my hope is in this moment. Is anybody feeling like you need change but don't have a lot of hope for it? Oh, a few. That gap between what we want to need and what we think is possible, that's the gap where we need other people. That's what community is for, because transformation and change can never happen on their own. Where's that compost? Even the compost doesn't happen by itself. We feed our compost piles with other things that other people have grown and fed to us. The worms come, the other bugs come, and our compost isn't as rich without them. We need each other. I need to not drop the compost. But our belief in our ability to actually make change, to be change agents, to transform the world, that's a little harder to hold on to. I have found it a little harder to hold on to in this pandemic world, a world where people's bodily autonomy is constantly threatened, a world where we need our little free food pantry because there are too many people hungry in our own community. But despair is easy because it requires us to do nothing. Hope for transformation is a lot harder because hope for transformation calls us into action. But we have to believe that transformation is possible. And I offer to you that we are in a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism, whose very roots say transformation is not only possible, it is happening all the time. Our theological roots, as you use, is rooted in the theological tradition that grew out of Christianity, that started to reject tradition and dogma, that said, hey, we as people have the ability to be rational. Our reason and our personal lived experience is surely as important, if not more so, than something somebody wrote down in a sacred text 2,000 years ago. Our reason and our lived personal experiences matter because that, some in our theological tradition said, is where God is. And whether or not you believe in God, our theological ancestors said, if there is a God, then surely that God is a loving one. And surely if that God is a loving God, then that God does not ever give up on anyone, which means that that God is always changing and becoming, which means we children of nature made in the divine image are also always being and becoming. Transformation is in our DNA, our theological DNA, no matter what our individual beliefs might be in this moment. But it's messy and hard and stinky like the compost, and because we are, after all, only humans, we resist change and transformation. We resist the call to actions because we are afraid of making mistakes, because we are afraid of messing up. And in our own history, we see over and over that we have made mistakes and messed up. That doesn't mean we stop the transformations. It doesn't mean we stop the work. It means we learn from those mistakes. We add them like those orange peels and Camden's pumpkin into the compost pile to learn and grow and continue to transform in this moment. So a bit of our history. While both Unitarians and Universalists here in America, from their very foundings in the 1700s, both espoused equality for all people, more or less. The formal leadership in both denominations enacted racist and misogynistic policies and practices when it came to ordination and leadership in their churches. They said, of course God speaks to all people. Of course God loves us all equally. That means you, woman in the pew. That means you, black founder of this church. But we're going to hold on to our power, and you need to stay over there in your place, and you need to stay in yours. The gap between our beliefs and our actions, between what we know needs to change and our hope to change it, that tension has always been there. In 1870, here in America, in those two denominations from which we were born, in Unitarianism and Universalism, there were over 600 ordained ministers across the young nation. 5 of them were women in 1870, which in and of itself was miraculous. The Universalists were some of the only people for quite a few decades who were ordaining women. The Quakers, of course, who did not ordain, let women and men speak in their meeting houses. But formal ordination was closed to most women. So in 1870, 5 out of 600. 30 years later, in 1900, this is a miraculous number, there are 70. 70 women ordained in either Unitarianism or Universalism. And that was through concerted efforts of women leaders here on the frontier, in Iowa and Western Illinois, a group of women who became known as the Iowa Sisterhood, who took over churches that men didn't want to touch because they were failing or it was too hard and messy. And those women created thriving, not just churches, but communities, places where people were fed, places where people were educated. places where people knew they could come for safety, where they showed a different way to be a community with faith at its center. And they trained other women. So by 1900, there were about 70 women ordained in those two denominations, which is wonderful. It was a point of transformation. But instead of letting the seeds that were there flourish, formal leadership squelched that. They turned the soil a little too roughly, and they kept those women, as able and capable and brilliant as they were, from the leadership in any thriving church. They wouldn't give them money. Most of them could not actually get paid ministry jobs from which they could make a living. 5 in 1870, 70 in 1900, and 30 years later, by 1930, less than 10 again. A point of transformation that was missed. An opportunity in those two denominations to truly, radically live into their beliefs, squelched by fear and uncertainty and a belief that the work was just too hard, a clinging to power and the way things were. In 1963, the newly formed UUA, which had merged just 2 years before, after more than a decade of discussing the Unitarian Universalist Association born from those two denominations, was grappling with a different identity crisis. And at the 1963 GA, there was a loud, contentious argument about amending the bylaws in the Constitution to say that no congregation could be a member of the UUA if it was not racially integrated. That any church that was a member had to have in its bylaws explicit language saying, we will not keep you from membership, no matter your race, your ethnicity, your age. In 1963, that amendment to just say, will be integrated, was voted down by a slim majority, but still it did not win. It wasn't until next year, in 1964, when the national tide was moving with the passing of the Voting Rights Act, that the UUA said, oh, we have hundreds and hundreds of Black members. Black members founded both Unitarian and Universalist churches in this country. They are leaders. We should probably say, as a faith that says we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people, that we actually do that. And they amended the Constitution and the bylaws, but they still struggled with how to live into it. And 5 years later, in 1969, what has come to be known in Unitarian Universalism as the Black Empowerment Controversy happened, because promised money that the UUA had made to its Black leaders was withheld. It was not going to come. And there were all kinds of reasons and excuses for that, but Black people and white people were fed up with the failed promises, with what they felt were lies, and hundreds of people, mostly African American, walked out of the General Assembly in Boston that year, and many of them never walked back into our doors. Moments of transformation that we have let slip through our fingers, or let's be honest, smashed under the heels of power clinging to what it wants. Here we are in the 21st century, 1923 to we're 2024 now, to 2024. More than 60% of the people ordained into Unitarian Universalism last year were women. The rising number of both Black and other people of color being ordained and who are official church leaders is on the rise. The seeds of those transformations, whether they were 120 years ago, 60 years ago, they never died. The people who believed in the possibility of transformation for our faith never went away. Even if they weren't in formal power, the transformation was still there. It was still possible. It was still happening, because that, again, is the theological premise of who we are. When we resist change, when we resist transformation, we are rejecting our theology. We are rejecting the belief that the divine is in us and that we are becoming always, and that work is ongoing. It will never be done. And that is a holy thing. Here in the 21st century, our denomination is grappling again with how to define itself. Who will we be? Not who were we? It's important to look at the past, but where are we going with what we have built from the past? For those who are familiar with some of the conversations in Unitarian Universalism, and if you're not, I'm happy to talk to you about it because it's fascinating to me. I'm a church nerd. But our bylaws, once again, need to be revised because we wrote into them that we will review them and do that. And as a covenantal people, we are responsible for that covenant. So we are looking at changing the language of our principles and our sources. Many people say, oh, we're getting rid of them. We're not. We're re-articulating them in a way that makes sense for the church of the 21st century. We are centering love at the heart of our religion. Isn't that what we say we do anyway? What are we here for if not to love one another? And if we are here to love one another, what does that love call us to do? Because if it is just a passive love about feeling good and being nice, it is useless. Love calls us to pluralism, to making space for many voices. It calls us to acts of generosity, both financial generosity, but also spiritual generosity, like we practice with our joys and sorrows. Love calls us to justice, which is part of our mission here at this congregation as a faith movement. Justice, I will always say this, thank you, Dr. Cornell West, is what love looks like in public. And love also calls us to equity, because it is not enough that we all have a pair of shoes. We need the shoes that fit us, that are right for who we are. That is what equity is. Equity is tearing down the systems that keep us hungry and apart in the first place. And love calls us to interdependence, because none of that can be done alone. Love calls us to transformation. In the language of what's called the Article 2 revisions, here's what we say about transformation as you use. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages. Never complete and never perfect. Transformation is slow, cyclical and iterative, messy. It requires humility for us to show up and say, I don't have all the answers. I thought I did and I was wrong. It requires us to trust deeply and to be in deep relationship with one another, to make space for the conflicts and conversations that we need to have. Deep, trusting relationships. That's what grows out of transformation. If we let our hearts be cracked open, if we let our seeds be planted in the muck of our history, we can do hard things. We can trust that we are never complete and never perfect. Because the tasks, to quote Reverend Nancy Ladd MacDonald, the tasks that are of utmost importance can never be completed by us alone. And so may we let a powerful humility grow in us. And from the realism born of that humility, May we create a radically changed world. I want you, dear ones, to think about your scales of change and hope, and wherever that gap is for you, wherever that gap is, if it's leaning towards despair, that is okay. There is much to despair about. Do you hear those drums from downstairs? Our young people are downstairs drumming and making music together with their bodies and their voices collectively. That is holy work. And when you feel that despair, I want you to remember you are not alone. I want you to hear those drum beats. I want you to hear the music we make together and the silence we create and hold holy and sacred together, because the gap between your hope for change and your belief it can happen is why we come together in community. We transform that gap into the love and action we make together. May it be so. I feel like we should just all go downstairs and listen to them drum. But we are going to actually sing Fount of Every Blessing. I love this song. It's an old Irish melody, but the lyrics call us to what I'm hoping we listen to today. There is a fount. It is always flowing, it is always changing, and it is available to us when we come together. Let us sing.
Come, thy fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. While the hope of life's perfection fills the hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come, thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel the love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is freedom. Come, thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us find ourselves in union, help our hands of our love. With thy aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
Transformation is in our DNA. But just like the moral arc of the universe does not bend on its own, transformation does not happen without our intentions and our attention. So, dear ones, may your attention and your intentions be turned this week to community, to nurturing whatever is growing deep in the compost of your soil. Let it flourish and let it thrive together. We'll extinguish our chalice with our words from Reverend Elizabeth Sully Jones. They're on your screen, and we'll say them together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community.